Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a system that shapes just about everything in our world, but it's one we almost never talk about: the hard ecological limits that govern all life on Earth, including us. For the last few centuries, we've been running on a really powerful assumption that human ingenuity, our technology, our economies, they can just keep expanding forever. It's basically the foundation of what we call progress. But what if that's not the whole story? This explainer, which is based on the groundbreaking work of sociologist William R. Catton, it throws a huge wrench in that idea. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, we've completely misunderstood where our prosperity comes from, and that has led us into a deep crisis of perception.
Okay, so let's start with the familiar story, the one that really underpins our entire modern world. And that's the belief that we as humans have basically conquered the old limits of nature.
I mean, think about it. The Industrial Revolution was a complete game changer. By unlocking the incredible energy in fossil fuels, we suddenly turbocharged our ability to do everything: grow food, build cities, move goods around the globe. It really felt like we had permanently upgraded the planet's ability to support us. Catton has a great name for this belief. He calls it the cornucopian myth. It's that deep, almost religious faith that no matter what problem we face, human ingenuity will cook up a solution. The horn of plenty will never, ever run dry. But here's the thing. While our economies were built on this idea of endless growth, ecology has always played by a very different and, frankly, non-negotiable set of rules. And that core rule all comes down to this one concept: carrying capacity. This isn't just a theory, it's a fundamental law of nature. For any species in any habitat, there's a ceiling, a maximum number that can be supported over the long haul without destroying the very environment it depends on. And you see this everywhere in nature, right? A population of deer might boom for a few years, but if they eat all the vegetation, their numbers will inevitably crash. It's this constant natural balancing act. So that begs a huge question. If carrying capacity is a universal law, how did we manage to get around it? How did our civilization grow so explosively? What did we miss about our own success story? And this right here is the absolute core of Catton's argument. He says we didn't actually increase the Earth's long-term carrying capacity at all. What we did was we found a clever way to create a temporary or phantom carrying capacity by tapping into this massive, one-time inheritance of fossil fuels. To really wrap your head around this, there's a super simple metaphor. Think of the Earth's renewable resources, sunlight, clean water, soil, as a household's annual income. It's the budget you can sustainably live on, year after year. Now imagine that household suddenly discovers a giant inheritance sitting in a savings account. That's our fossil fuels. So they start withdrawing from that account, spending way more than their annual income to live a much bigger, more extravagant lifestyle. And for a while, it feels totally sustainable. This new lifestyle seems normal. But the whole thing is completely dependent on draining that finite savings account. And when the money's gone, that household is in for a really rude awakening, because they've built a life their real income can't possibly support. Catton calls this process drawdown. It's a powerful idea. We're spending this one-time gift from nature as if it were a recurring income. In his view, we're quite literally stealing resources from future generations. And the process of drawdown leads directly to a condition called overshoot. This is what happens when a population blows past the long-term carrying capacity of its environment. And in every single other natural system we've ever studied, overshoot is always, without fail, followed by a crash. So when you hear terms like drawdown, overshoot, and phantom carrying capacity, they're not just academic buzzwords. They give us a whole new language, an ecological vocabulary, to talk about our situation in a way that goes beyond just economics and gets to the real, physical limits of our world. So this all leads to a really critical question. If we're actually in a state of overshoot, why on earth is it so hard for us to see it? Why doesn't it feel like a 5-alarm fire? Well, the answer comes back to perception. Every new technology, every efficiency gain, every breakthrough, it just reinforces that cornucopian myth. Our own incredible success has created this massive cultural blind spot, making it seem like the idea of limits is just old-fashioned. Catton has an absolutely brilliant word for this. He calls it cargoism. It's this deep, unshakable faith that no matter how big a mess we make, some new technology will always swoop in at the last minute to save the day, like cargo dropping from the sky. So what you end up with is this fundamental clash of worldviews. Our cultural story, the cornucopian myth, is all about permanent progress. But ecological reality is about finite resources and temporary abundance. They're on a collision course. So how does adopting this ecological viewpoint actually change anything? Well, it completely reframes how we look at the biggest challenges we're facing right now. Once you put on these ecological glasses, all of these huge issues that we normally treat as separate problems, climate change, species extinction, soil degradation, pollution, they all start to look like interconnected symptoms of one single underlying condition. They're all signs of a global civilization in overshoot. Now, this framework isn't a crystal ball. It doesn't tell us exactly what's going to happen or when. But what it does, and this is so important, is it gives us a much more accurate way to understand the present. It helps us see past the illusion of short-term abundance and ask the right questions about long-term sustainability. And that leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought to chew on. If Catton's analysis is right, if we really are in a state of overshoot, burning through our planetary savings, what does true sustainability, a world that lives on its actual renewable income, what does that even look like?